Okay, good morning. Welcome to Moshiach Decoded. This is already extra credit classes because Moshiach didn't come yet. Or see, maybe he's here already. That's the whole content of today's shir. You said it. I needed a sign from heaven that that this is right. And here you go, Michael. Maybe he's here already. And the answer is he is here already. It just needs to be revealed to our eyes. So that's what we're going to try to talk about in today's class. So this is already, we were planning to have a series of 6 classes, altogether 18 classes on the subject, but we're ending up with another 2 classes. 20 is Kesser, Moshiach's crown. Why? Because class number 3, called The Big Ideas, occupied the subject matter, took up 2 classes. Class number 4 was also a part 1 and part 2. I expected it to be 1 class. That was called First Fruits. And now we're holding Progress Report. Okay, where are we holding in the coming of Moshiach? How do we know? And the question, I think, I don't have the paper in front of me, but the question I think was, how do we know this time it's for real? We're talking so much about Moshiach, how do we know it's real? And I really, really hope that anybody that's listening to this class realizes that this class comes after a series of 18 classes. So it's important that you have that information to really connect into what we're saying. If not, today's information stands on its own right, but to validate what I am saying today requires a thorough understanding on the whole concept of Moshiach. So that's based on those earlier classes. They are available on YouTube. You can look them up. We haven't put them on our website yet, but we will, be'ezus Hashem. I still have to fill in some of the missed classes that somehow were lacking in the recording, or 1 or 2 that I want to redo. So that will make it into a complete thing. Hopefully before that we will already dance in the 3rd Beis Hamikdash, and that will be unnecessary. I want to thank the Werdiger family for their grant for this particular series of classes. The Eibishter bench them with much bracha and mazel. Okay, so the subject today is what kind of information do we have from above? I mean, we the Jewish people are in this, Galus is like this deep cave or a pit. So we're in the dark. We're doing work in the dark. The whole definition of Galus is a time of concealment, of anochi astir. Meaning, which means I am concealing myself, Hashem says. We don't have the signs. We don't have the Nevi'im. Ein chazayin me'es Hashem. We don't have Nevi'im. Perhaps, maybe we don't have Nevi'im. And because of that, we're in the dark. So how do we ever get, and since the Gala especially has been such a long time, do we have any indication, or do we get any information to help us make it through and realize where we're standing? Everybody knows when you're in the car with the kids, and they all ask the constant question, are we there already? Are we there already? It's the question that you want to ask, but you can't ask it, but your kids ask it for you. Are we there already? And it's always good to let them know, there's another, it's another half an hour. Today's days it helps because Waze tells us exactly. B'nevuah, since Nevuah returned already to the world, Hashem gave us already daily Nevuah prophecy that we can know when we're going to get to our destination. So do we have a Navi like Waze to tell us where we're at, where we're holding? So I want to take everybody back to the first class in this last series. In the first class, in the last series, we discussed the concept of kitzim, of the idea of a progress, that the coming of Mashiach is not a one-time event, and that Golus is not just a punishment, but that Golus is a certain rectification, a certain purification, and a certain cosmic tikkun that has to happen. And it involves all the accumulation of all the good deeds that we do, primarily during the time of Golus, in which we bring godliness into this, what we otherwise might say, godless existence. Visibly godless existence, a world that on its own conceals and blocks Hashem, and it's full of klipa, full of unholiness, full of darkness, and forces that are obscuring and blocking the revelation of Hashem, and we have to break that and reveal Hashem. So we had discussed in the class then that this process there has been divided into 3 segments. And those three segments are three periods of time regarding the coming of Moshiach, Moshiach's possible arrival, the Kates, Moshiach's possible arrival. We have three general times, and the clearest definition on those three periods of time is coming from the Abarbanel, supported by the Maharal of Prague, supported by Rabbeinu Bechaya. I mean, all say similar, but the Abarbanel is the one who gives us the most structure on this idea, is that there are three general periods of time regarding the coming of Moshiach. One of them is called Zman that Moshiach cannot come. The Lashon of the Abarbanel is Himona biyasai. That's what I think his Lashon is. The time that Moshiach cannot come. There's a gezerah, there's a decree from above that Yidden have to be in Galus for a certain amount of time. That's one period of time. There's another period of time that's called Zman Efshari biyasai. It's a time that Moshiach could come. Doesn't mean he has to come. It's possible for him to come. And then there is a third period of time called Zman Chiyuv biyasai. A time that if that time arrives, Moshiach must be here. And that's the ultimate case. That's the ultimate case, the final case, which is given to us in Sefer Daniel, in which in Sefer Daniel it says it's a time that's chasum. That means you can try to crack the code and not figure it out. And there is a zman, there's an end time. And by that time, Moshiach must come. So we had discussed already in the first class, but maybe not we did discuss it in the first class, that according to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, even though in the Maharal and in the Barbanel, which are giants of giants, they kind of say that the first period of time is a time that is decreed upon the Jewish people that there has to be a galus, and no matter what we do, we can't make Moshiach come. It's not Zman. The second period is Zman Efshari biyasai. We can make Moshiach come based on speeding up our good deeds and finishing the job at an earlier with the intensity of our service. But we have established already in the first class that even though our Barbanel says that, and even though the Maharal says that, and they're absolutely true because these are Gedolei Yisroel that we can rely on, yet what they mean is that based on the system that the Eibishter set up, based on the system of creation, the way God set up the system is one that does not allow for Bias HaMashiach to happen in that first period of time. But there is always the option of what I called in that first class the nuclear option. The idea is that we're able to, as Jews, we're able to transcend the entire system, especially through the power of tshuva. Tshuva is lamayla min ha'olam. Tshuva is higher than the world. When we're doing true tshuva, especially what tshuva has explained in Chassidus, what tshuva really means, it's the sudden emergence in a very powerful way of the deepest nekuda, the deepest point of the Jewish neshama. The chelik l'kaim emal mamish, the peace of God from above that's embedded in every Jew, that's connected to God in a level higher than time and space. It's divine. It's not part of creation. And when that reveals itself, we stand beyond time. We stand beyond all systems. The fact that in tshuva we can repair things of past, even though we have no control over past time. The fact that we can redefine the past is because we can exit the system and from beyond the system change the system. And that's why no matter what, and the Rebbe proves it from the idea that it says that right when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Medrash tells us that a little baby was born. And that baby was Moshiach. There was a story with the cow. The cow cried, and he said that the Arabs said that now your temple was destroyed, and the cow made another strange sound. He said now Moshiach was born. So the Rebbe says the reason why this happened was the moment the Gullahs began, which I'll be pashtas without getting mystical and just simple. We have to always stick to simple siddur. Always there are mystical truths, but the most important thing is always the simple that a simple Jew knows. And that is that after all, everything said and done, it's our sins that cause us to be exiled from our land. So the moment we do a tikkun on the sin, we could be redeemed. So notwithstanding the truth that there is a gzeira that the galus has to be, whether it's 400 years, whether the Zohar says 1,000 years, no matter what that time that we call, in the words of the Maral and the words of the Abarbanel and others, as man, that it's impossible for Mashiach to come. It's true, it's impossible, yet we, the Jew, can do the impossible. That's the idea. It's impossible. Mitzad the system, meaning as it is set up, it's impossible. And as the Rebbe refers to it, is because a Jew is connected to the Eibishter himself. And the Eibishter, you can't say on him, and God, you can't say on him that there's something impossible. The Eibishter is a kol yachol, so the Eibishter can do the impossible. And through the strongest, deepest tshuva, we access the Eibishter's kol yachol, the omnipotence of God, and therefore there are no systems. So therefore we have to accept the truth that had we done an unbelievable tshuva, we could have changed it the moment the galus began. That's number one. But again, it requires exiting the system. Now let's talk about the second period of time. Second period of time is which the Maral and the Abarbanel referred to as man efshari biyasei, the time that Moshiach could come. What that means is, it's a time, it's not yet the final date in which Hashem has established Moshiach must be by that time, but the gezeira of galus that was decreed upon the Jewish people that they need to be in exile has already expired. So then if the gezeira of galus has expired, why is there no geula? Then why do we need anything else? What the Maral is saying and the Barbanel is saying, that if we do a lot of Torah and mitzvahs and we accelerate our service, we can bring the geula at any of that period of time, which Al Pi Pashtus, this time that we're talking about now is already a period of time of already about 1,500 years, which is already in this period of time called Zman Efshari Biyaseh, Mashiach could come. Because the Gemara says already, Amar Rav, the Gemara says already, in the time of the Gemara, Kalu Kal HaKitzin, that all the Kitzin are over, Ve'ein Adavar Talu Elo B'tshuva. So if the Gemara says already that the times of the Kitzim are over, the meaning of those Kitzim are over means that the Gezeira as punishment, so to speak, the divine decree that we need to do the time in Galus, that has passed already, that is gone already in the time of the Gemara, and fine. But now it's dependent on tshuva. But why does it have to be dependent on tshuva? And the answer is, and here's a very, very important idea, which I want to talk a little bit about, so that we can appreciate the uniqueness of the time that we're in right now. And that is that, in addition to the punishment of Galus, we discussed that there is special spiritual rectifications that need to happen. And those rectifications are related, just very briefly, more Kabbalistic, the idea of tikkun olam, the idea of what's called avodas habirurim. We need to elevate all the sparks of holiness that are buried across the world. These are sparks of Hashem that are within the creation, that are locked in klippa. In klippa means shells, forces that obscure it. And when a Jew learns Torah and does mitzvahs and through all the other activities in various different places, we elevate these sparks. And this is the concept that the Gemara says, Lahigla Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisroel Beina Umais, that Hashem has not scattered the Jewish people amongst the nations, Elosh Yataisu Aleim Gerim, so that we should be add to us converts. Who are these converts? Not literal physical converts. That too, there are not so many converts that we converted that should justify the misery, the pain, the suffering, the bloodshed, the persecution, and all that we've gone through during the exile. We weren't collected so many converts. So the Arizal explains it's not necessarily a human being a convert. It's sparks. These are the converts. And what happens is when we collect those sparks, and by the way, collecting sparks doesn't mean putting it into a suitcase and running to Eretz Yisrael. Collecting a spark means breaking that which is blocking God in that particular place, object, idea, and causing that spark to reveal itself to the point that if Moshiach was to come today, we would be able to see Hashem in that object, in that place. And we're taking, but before we do a mitzvah over there's actually something blocking that even if Mashiach reveals himself, there is still a klippa that's not allowing God to be expressed in that country, in that city, in that place, in that object. So that's the hour avodah of revealing accessing those sparks, revealing them. Now this has nothing to do with sin. This is even after we've done our time, there's work that needs to get done. Or sometimes it's referred to in Torah that it says by Mitzrayim that the Jewish people will will be enslaved, and va'achar ken yetzu b'rechush gadol. They will go out with a great wealth. And we know that all exiles are following Egypt. Egypt was the prototype of exile. And then all the other galuyos are copies of Egypt. So we can learn a lot from what happened in the first Galus Mitzrayim. So in Galus Mitzrayim, in addition to the whatever suffering, if there was a sin that the Jewish people needed to pay for, whether it's Mechiras Yosef, whether it's because Avram Avinu doubted Hashem, I don't know, whatever, if you're going to say that Galus Mitzrayim had something to do with some kind of a sin, in addition to that, it was mainly the Eibishter tells Avram Avinu, Acher ken yetzu b'rechush gadol, you have to get the wealth of Egypt. Now the wealth of Egypt is defined as the physical wealth. The Jewish people went out, I don't want to say filthy rich, because it was beautifully rich, not filthy rich, but very, very rich. And we also went out with a tremendous potential, because those sparks of holiness were elevated in Egypt, that enabled the Torah to be given to the world, that incredible godly revelation. That's called the great wealth. So just like there is the great wealth, the Rechush Gadol that we needed to take out then, there is the Rechush Gadol, the great, great wealth, treasures and treasures that we, the Jewish people, we're going to receive in the end of this exile. And again, it's spiritual wealth, and it will obviously translate into a physical wealth for Israel, and then for all of humanity. And as we spoke already last week, how the world is becoming so much richer. And in the last class 2 weeks ago, how you're seeing wealth is increasing in all places, and the world is providing today like it never did before. You're seeing already the beginning of that great wealth. In any case, so we need to bring to this Rechush Gadol, or as we said earlier, the Avodah of Birurim. That takes a certain amount of effort of the Jewish people in order for us to accomplish that complete tikkun. How long does that take? That depends on the intensity of our avodah. The more intense our service is, the quicker we finish that job. And therefore, that creates a possibility of Moshiach coming 1,500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago. In other words, this is all time that's after the decree, or else God, chas v'shalom, it would almost look like Hashem is like He made a decree. How much did we sin already that we should be decreed 2,000 years of suffering? That's crazy. Who gets sent to prison for 2,000 years? Sometimes they do, I like when they give something to a person a sentence. They give him like 50 life sentences. Like they get, I guess they're keeping the guy in prison after Tchias HaMesim. But what's this? Why would the Eibishter do that? So as punishment, it's not shaykh. But if there is a job that needs to get done, if the sparks that need to get done, so that when we finish the job, we're done. So what's that job? As we spoke, it's the avodah that we do inside the galus. As the Rebbe refers to it, we have to bring the aleph. That the Rebbe says an amazing revelation. That the whole idea of geula is that we bring. Goyla and Geula is the same word. Gola means exile. Geula means redemption. So the Rebbe says Goyla and Geula is the same word. Because the avoda is not like these are bad times. The way we look at Galus and Geula is not like these are bad times and this is a good time. The whole avoda that brings the Geula is the Galus itself. The Eibishter takes us into a place that's not godly yet. That's the Galus. He takes us into a tunnel and he says, light up this tunnel with godly light. How? Through your Torah and mitzvahs that you're going to do. Bring the Aleph. What's the Aleph? Aleph is Alufa Shel Olam. Aleph is Hashem. Reveal him in the space of the exile, and then you'll have the Giyul. So how long does it take for us to permeate every part of the world with godliness? Well, it depends how diligent we are. Which this will explain an amazing thing. The Rebbe, based on this, explains the concept of why we have throughout ages Gedolei Yisroel, the greatest giants, who gave kitzim, they gave certain end times. And you have two questions. Number one, how is it that they were allowed to give these kitzim? They were Gedolei Yisroel who spoke about when Moshiach is going to come. The Zohar predicted Moshiach was going to come in the year Tav Ches. I'm not exactly sure. It's in 1600s. Is the year Tav Ches. Right now I'm not making the calculation. It was the time that the Zohar predicted. In the end, it turned out that it was the year of the worst misery for the Jewish people. It was the Chmielnicki then crossed with the Cossacks, crossed Eastern Europe and massacred thousands of Jews. That was the year that the Zohar predicted a year of redemption. Right? Unbelievable. The 1648, Tav Ches. And then there were many other kitzim, and then we spoke about a kates of the Rambam. Dalet Alofim Tav Kuf Tzadik Dalet is a kates that the Rambam predicts that Moshiach is going to come way earlier. And then you'll have the Ramban's kates. Ramban also gives a kates somewhere in the 13th century. Ramban gives a kates. And then you'll have the kates that many Jews were waiting for was Taf Reish Ches. It was the Alter Rebbe's kates. The Alter Rebbe really gave a kates for Taf Reish Gimel, but it's clear that when he said the kates, a different year came out of his mouth. The Rebbe Rashab said that what came out of his mouth was Taf Reish Ches. That's 1848. And then Mashiach didn't come then. And the Tzemach Tzedek said, what do you mean Mashiach didn't come? He did come. We printed the Likutei Torah. That's Mashiach's coming. In any case, and then we have many Gedolei Yisroel believe that Taf Reish Samach Vav would be the Geula. Taf Reish Samach Vav would be the redemption. And I'm going to quote to you too, the Rebbe Rashab in a mimer says that Taf Reish Samach Vav is going to be the Geula. He makes a calculation based on the years. Taf Reish Samach Vav, which is the year 1906. That 1906 is going to be redemption. And there were many other Sfarim who believed so strongly that year would be the Shinivarov, the son of the Divrei Chaim, was so sure that 7 years before that, he hung up a sign. He told them, he instructed they should hang up a sign in his shul that everybody should, that since we're entering now into the Shemitah, into the 7 years that Moshiach is going to come for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, in Tafresh Samach Vav. So please, everybody should pray that I should live a long life, and I shouldn't have lived long, but that he should live in Arichos Yamim, so that I should be alive in Tafresh Samach Vav, because I want to be there when Mashiach comes. The Darkei Tshuva was one of the students, the father of the Minchas Elazar, of the famous Munkat Sharav. The Darkei Tshuva was there by the Shun of a Rav, and he heard it from his mouth. And he got so excited, he had already made arrangements then, that in 7 years from then, in the year Tafresh Samach Vav, he should go to the Shinover for Pesach and be there by his Rebbe for the first night of Pesach by the Seder, because he was sure that if it's going to be that year, it's going to be B'Nisan Asidin Ligol, the time is Pesach, so he should be there. Turned out, very sadly, that the Shinover Rav passed away 2 years after he made that prediction. That means still 5 years before Tafresh Samach Vav. What did the Darkei Tshuva do? This is again one of the great Hungarian Rabbanim. What did he do? He was so scared that people are getting, especially since he saw that his Rebbe passed away, and he was afraid that the simple people are so believing in this time of the Geula. So he got scared. So he sent out a notification that people should know that really the Kates no one knows. It's even hidden from Malachim. It's even hidden from the greatest Malachim above. The angels don't know. So therefore people down here can't know. Even though the Shinover set a date, it was not really that he knew for sure that Mashiach was coming. What he was saying was, it was a tefillah-like. It was a time that's mesugal, and he hoped that he's going to inspire the Jewish people to tremendous avoda, to be able to, that we should make, so that if we know that that's a time that Mashiach can come, so that we can do a lot of work and bring the Geula. This is what he said. So that people shouldn't be, because he was afraid that people would be disappointed, and it would chas v'shalom hurt their emunah if it wouldn't happen. The Slabodkea Rebbe, who was the son of the Darkei Tshuva, when he received this kol koira from the Darkei Tshuva, he said, how dare does someone in our generation contradict my father who said so and so? And he says, for sure my father, when he saw it, he saw the Geula Taka coming. And therefore he shouldn't mess with these things. Anyways, you see that there was, Tafresh Samach Vav was a year unbelievable that they waited for the Geula, 1906. And so on and so forth. The Friediger Rebbe came out, li'alta l'tshuva, li'alta l'giyula, that if we do tshuva, Mashiach will come in Tafshin Gimel, 1943. And it's interesting, the Rebbe reads that as a certain kates. That too was a kates. Tafshin Gimel. It's interesting, our Rebbe never gave any kitzim. The Rebbe never gave a date, a year. Even though the Rebbe did say in many places that it's brought in Sfarim, Tafshin Mem Beis, and Shnas B'Yas HaMashiach, and things like that. But the Rebbe never said a date. But the word Gedolei Yisroel, and as I mentioned to you, like across, who gave kitzim. So what's the significance of those kitzim? So my question is twofold. Number one, how are they allowed to give kitzim when it says clearly that you're not allowed to give any kitzim? You're not allowed to be machashve kitzim. Tipach rucham, let the bones or of those who give kitzim, who give end dates, it gives a curse to them. And then on the other hand, if they gave a kates and they're tzaddikim and they're real people, how did it happen that Moshiach didn't come? So the Rebbe speaks about this in a few places. And in Tafshin Mem, the Rebbe gives a very, very interesting answer. And it's which answers both these questions. He says that when any tzaddik gave a kates, it means, it's not, first of all, they didn't make a calculation. It's not like they sat down and started looking for the code, try to crack the code in Daniel, or so on and so forth. These are godly people, and they see things in heaven. They saw B'yas HaMashiach, which means they saw the godly revelation that's supposed to come to the world, and they also saw the bar. There's a certain bar of mitzvahs that it will take to fill mitzvahs and good deeds that we should be able to reach to that revelation. And there was usually a couple of years in advance, they knew based on the Torah and mitzvahs that they've done till now, that it would take 7 years, it would take 10 years, it would take 20 years, that by that time, for sure Mashiach would come. Because they saw Mashiach. It's not like they're calculating. It's not a calculation. They saw the Geula Mamish. But in order to achieve that Geula, mitzvahs need to be done. And based on their estimation of how many, and their Gedolei Yisroel, that tzaddikim, they can see the impact of a mitzvah. So by considering the Jewish people, considering the state of observance that was in their days, it would take so many more years of mitzvahs to reach this Gilui. And why did they say it? They said it because they had an obligation to say it. Why? Because by saying it, it would give tremendous adrenaline to the Jewish people to actually put their foot down to accelerate. In other words, by people knowing that there is an end date and that the time is mamish here and it's within reach, all you need to go is stretch a little bit. So by people getting excited about it, we'll increase our Torah and mitzvahs and we'll finally reach it. If so, how can it be? You'll ask a question. That the Rambam sees already the end date, this end date over 1,000 years ago. And then the Ramban comes and puts it 200 years later or so. So, like, how is it? And then you have the Alter Rebbe and others who say it's in the Zohar. How do you have such discrepancies? If the Geula is a Geula, and so how far off can you be? You say that the Rambam made a mistake and say that he said it still in the 1100s, Moshiach needs to come. And again, he sees it. And if he sees it, so let's say he's wrong, it takes us a little longer, but how much longer? We're talking about 1,000 years? We still didn't get it done of Torah and mitzvahs. So, if you're not the Lubavitcher Rebbe, then you would probably give the answer and say, oh, we sinned, we futched, we did bad stuff. But if you look positive, and when we realize that bad stuff is not pneumiastic, it's fake, it's external, and we do bad stuff, but we also have extra purging and punishment, and I mean, hardships, let's say, I don't want to say punishments, but hardships, and those hardships cleanse, and even when a Jew does something bad, he immediately does tshuva. So we don't pay too much attention to the sin. But the Rebbe gives another answer. The Rebbe says, based on these Gedolei Yisroels, on the appreciation of what Moshiach is, The Rambam envisioned the Rechush Gadol, that great wealth that's supposed to come, as a certain level that the Rambam was able to perceive. The Rebbe says it's possible, it doesn't say it about Rambam and Ramban, I'm just putting names to it, that the Ramban comes a Gadol Yisroel, a greater, who's able for whatever reason, based on his shleimus of Yediyas HaTorah, to perceive a greater treasure, a greater Rechush Gadol, which means a Bias HaMashiach on a much richer level, on a much higher level. For that, the work that the Rambam said is needed to bring Moshiach, which the time passed and it didn't come, it's because the Bias HaMashiach that the Ramban saw is a greater Bias HaMashiach that the Rambam saw, and that therefore it needs more work. And the Ramban is estimating that work will get done by so and so. In other words, he sees the Geula, and he can see that the work that's needed is only so. And so it went throughout the generations. Deeper understanding of Moshiach, higher Rechush Gadol. And the Rebbe says it explicitly, even regards to the Friediger Rebbe. The Rebbe says this, that people have tainus on my father-in-law, the Friediger Rebbe, that he said in Tafshin Gimel, the Geula is going to come. So the Rebbe says, darf man sagen, that yes, lefi what the Friediger Rebbe saw as the Geula, it was ready, completed, and ready to be shipped UPS or FedEx, already in Tafshin Gimel. If we would have just finished whatever, it didn't happen. The Rebbe says, Zetzechois, that Bias HaMashiach is now even greater and even higher, requiring an avodah nalis, requiring even a higher type of a service. And for that, we keep on plugging onward to get to the ultimate Gila. Oh, that's a painful answer, because that means, okay, so there's no end. Because since the Eibush there is no end, and his goodness is no end, so the prize, every couple of years, they keep on adding a couple of zeros, and then so where do we go? For that, Baruch Hashem, we have to know that there is an end time. There is a Zman Chiyuv Boyoy. Zman Chiyuv Boyoy means a time that by that time Moshiach must come, and it has nothing to do anymore with Schus of Avodah. Which means, in the first period of time that we spoke about, according to the system, Moshiach could not come, but we can exit the system and force the Geula to happen. That's possible. The second period of time, the world itself, the system itself, allows for acceleration of service, and within that acceleration of service, Moshiach could come within that period, and that's the idea of Achi Shena. Achi Shena was with any period of time, and in that period of time is where you have all the kitzim of Gedolei Yisrael. And in this sense, we have to differentiate. There's a very important differentiation between the kitzim that were given by the Tanoim and Amoraim and the Gemara, and the kitzim that the Rambam, Ramban, Zohar, and so on and so forth, all the other kitzim that we spoke about earlier. What's the difference? The kitzim that are given in Gemara are talking about when is the end of the decree of Golus, that Moshiach cannot come before that time. The other kitzim that are given is a whole different thing. Gedolei Yisroel, the great leaders of the Jewish people, see the Geula, they appreciate, they know how much work is necessary for the Geula to happen, and based on that, they're giving us these zmanim. So a kates over here it's not like the kates in Gemara. It's a whole different level of kates. But again, as we said earlier, with all the Gedolei Yisrael and all that they saw, we never got to the end of it. But then comes a third time. And again, as Abarbanel refers to it, Maral referred to it, Zman Chiyuv Boyai. And the Zman Chiyuv Boyai means that Moshiach must arrive at that time. But when is that Zman? It remains a mystery. We don't know. Tafshin Nun Aleph, but if you were paying attention and learning and listening to all the classes we were doing, we were talking about the system of time, 6 millennia. By the way, Tafrei Samach Vav is 2/3, which was 1906, is 2/3 of the time of Elaf Hashishi. And that's, by the way, one of the great people say that by that time there definitely has to be news. B'negei Bias HaMoshiach. It's 2/3 already into Elov HaShishi. But then I told you, I don't know, that's what he writes, 2/3. Why? When is 2/3? 3/4 of Elov HaShishi is in 1990. You're talking about 3/4. 3/4 of Elov HaShishi is Friday midday. That's 1990. Tafshin Nun. So there was a very, very, very powerful revelation that the Lubavitcher Rebbe revealed in the end of Nisan, Tafshin Nun Aleph. Over there, the Rebbe said it was a lashon like this. This is his lashon then. Let me get you the exact lashon. This was said in Parshas Tazria Mitzora Tafshin Nun Aleph by the Fabrengen. The Rebbe said this lashon: B'yameinu elu mamish, in these days, literally, im siyumai shel chodesh Nisan d'shnas arenu neflois, with the conclusion of the month of Nisan, of the year of arenu neflois, the Rebbe then characterized based on the Rosh Tevis of Nun Aleph is Taf Shin Tia Shnas. Nun Aleph is Neflois Arenu or Arenu Neflois, if you change the Aleph and the Nun. A year that we will see wonders. So the Rebbe says that since in these days, Kalu Kol HaKitzin Kipshutai Mamish. All the kitzim, all the end dimes have ended. Kipshutai Mamish, meaning in the most literal sense. It's interesting, it's the only time that the Rebbe pointed to a date and said, this time, usually the Rebbe speaks in general, we'll have to do with the bring Moshiach and so on and so forth. But here is where he puts a date and he says that in this Chodesh Nisan is Kalu Kol HaKitzin Kipshutai Mamish. And L'chura, what does he mean, Kipshutai Mamish? It means both types of kitzin that we spoke about. We spoke about kitzin, which has to do with Gezeres Agolos, and we spoke about kitzin that has to do with the avodah that the Jewish people need to finish. The Rebbe is saying that whatever work needed to be done for the Jewish people that we needed to do in order to bring the Geula was done already. In a sense, it seems to imply that we're hitting onto the time of Zman Chiyuv Boyai, the time that Moshiach must come. You see it clearly in talks that the Rebbe gave after that, very, in which he says that. Let me just share with you. So first of all, with the Rebbe, you see already chidushim that you don't see on all the Gedolei Yisroel in the years from earlier. Number one, when the Rebbe became Rebbe, the Rebbe declared very strongly that our generation is the 7th generation of a talich of tzaddikim, of a group of tzaddikim that come before Mashiach comes. And the Rebbe says very clearly in that talk that we are the Dor Achron Shel Galus. This generation is the last generation of exile, and we are the first generation of Geula. Very, 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 very interesting characterization of our generation. Phenomenal. And it's not like the Rebbe said it one time, someone heard it in Yechidus, privately. Sometimes you had tzaddikim, you hear, Yankel Moshe was there, and he heard that this, and he heard once by a tish, the Rebbe was sitting, and he looked a parverter. No, we're talking about Sicha after Sicha, talk after talk, publicly, non-stop. It was repeated by the Rebbe hundreds of times. Our generation, Belishum Suffolk. And I just saw it in this week's talk. Parshas Truma, in Tafshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe uses those same words. And he says, Zedavar Barer. Zedavar Barer. No, it wasn't there. It was in Tafshin Mem Ches. I don't have it now in front of me. And it's a Dover Barer that our generation, without a shadow of a doubt, the Rebbe says is the last generation of the Tafshin Nun. I'm sorry, now I remember. I learned something this Shabbos. So it's Tafshin Nun. I don't have it in front of me right now. It says a Dover Barer. There's no question. Our generation is the last generation of exile, and we're the first generation of Geula. The only thing, and the Rebbe is saying this from when he became Rebbe. He's saying it from the name of his father-in-law. we finished already all the work, but we have to still polish the buttons. The idea of polishing the buttons means that there are still some chitzoniistic things that need to be finished. You know, when a person gets dressed, an officer or an official, and they used to have golden buttons or brass buttons. So in order to look really good, the last thing after they got their suit and they're all ready to step out, the guy would come over, their attendant, and give them a little polish on the buttons. And that was the last thing. You polish the buttons, now you're ready to go out and go to the big parade. You're ready to go to meet the king, or you're ready to go out and, into public. So our generation, we're left with the earlier generation had the deep work that was necessary. We need some, what we call pachim ketanim, small little things that still need to be fixed right at the end of time. We get that done, Moshiach will come. And you see, that's why the Rebbe so strongly got Jews to do, and pachim ketanim means not deep avoda, deep service, but more external kind of things. And that's why if you get thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews to put on tefillin, first of all, you can't say it's small, it's a mitzvah. But in terms of the person's avoda, the person hasn't incorporated, studied, learned, developed, transformed. They just did an action. But if all you need is pachim ketanim, all you need now, the last avodah, is as many mitzvahs that we can do, practical mitzvahs. These are the small last, in olam asiyah hagashmi, in the physical world of asiyah to get done, okay, we get that done. And that was the message throughout the 40 years of the Rebbe's leadership, is that we have to finish polishing the buttons. In Tafshin Mem Zayin, which 1987 is the first time the Rebbe used the term, and he said, we've done already polishing the buttons. And the Rebbe went so far to say that polishing the buttons, if you polish them too much, you can ruin the button. So even the pachim ketanim that we've done, ois ketan, are done already. And you see the change in the Rebbe's talk in Tafshin Mem Zayin, the way he speaks about polishing the buttons is already done already. And he repeats it in a few different sichos again and again. The stunning words when he says that in this Nisan kipshutay mamish kolui kola kitzen, we finished every single case. Goodbye. There's nothing left. The Rebbe goes further to say, and let me quote you a few sichos. Parshas Noach, Tafshin Nun Beis. Gam kisheyadesh inish benafshe, even when a person knows. Even when a person knows personally that there are certain things that need tikkun. This is not a contradiction to the testimony of the leader of the generation, referring to his own testimony, that we finished the work. You might say, when do we finish the work? Come on, I know, Rebbe, I'm still struggling with my Yetzer Hara. I still have so many things in my life. I'm not ready for Moshiach. So how can you say that the Jewish people are ready for the Geula? The Rebbe says we have to differentiate. The avoida, the klolis b'nei Yisroel, b'meshach kol adoyrish, shetzrich aliyas b'zman hagolus, kedei lavoi lahashleimus tegeula, nistayma v'nishlama. Now obviously this is words that only a tzaddik hadoyer, only someone who has the inside information can know that. What is he saying? He's saying the work that the Jewish people needed to do as a people, throughout all the generations, that accumulates and brings the Geula, it's done. You want to look nice for the Geula, it's probably a very nice idea that you shouldn't show up to Moshiach in your PJs. That's very good, and you should probably take this message very seriously and go repair whatever you need to repair. Because it will be personally uncomfortable to be in an unrectified state in your own personal things. But now, it's not anymore negeya to the closest avoid of the Jewish people. It's an unbelievable statement. The Rebbe says it again on Vav Cheshvan, Tafshin Nun Beis, in another talk. Kvar ishlimu kol inyanei avoda. We finished already all the inyanim of avoda, and now the only thing that's necessary is the actual Geula. In Chaya Sarah, the famous Chaya Sarah, when the Rebbe speaks to the Shluchim, the last time the Rebbe spoke to the conference of Shluchim, the einzige Sach was is itzter geblieben, the only thing that's left now over, I'm quoting from Yiddish, in the avodas hashlichus, in the avodah of shlichus of the Shluchim, is to mekabel zayin, pnei Moshiach tzedkeinu b'poil mamish. Now we need to go greet Moshiach in the literal sense. Yeah. And then again, kvar, Parshas Vayishlach, Tafshin Nun Beis, kvar nigrumu v'nishlemu kol inyanim. We've done everything. We already polished the buttons. Everything is already prepared for Bias HaMashiach. So it's understood that the continuation of the avodah, that after this, is no more avodas habirurim. It's no more the avodah of rectifying. El avodah miyuchedes lehevi his galus b'poyel ba'olam. A special avodah to make Mashiach be revealed, but there's no more work that needs to be done to make Mashiach come. There's a sefer called Sefer HaKetz. A lot of what I'm saying today, he's done amazing research on the whole concept of all that is written by all the Rishonim, Achronim, and everything that's written about it, by a fellow, by a Rav Shner Zalman Herzl. So he gives an interesting insight, and this is his own, to differentiate the time. He says, imagine you're trying to get someone to come visit you. You want to invite someone. And you ask them to come, and they don't, and they tell you, and they push you off. But you're really, really adamant. You really want that person to come. So you keep on begging them again and again and again. You don't stop. You beg for them to come. But imagine if one day they'd let you know that they're coming. They're coming. They didn't tell you exactly which day they're coming, but they're telling you already that you're petitioning them to come to their house. The invitation has been accepted, and I'm coming. Is there any more reason to petition them and make them crazy to come? They said they're coming already. What you should be doing right now is probably going to your house and making all the preparations necessary, if this is someone so important that you wanted them to come all along because their visit to you is so important, to make them comfortable when they come. And the house is nice and set up and beautiful. Doesn't make any sense to pester them anymore to come because they told you they're coming already. So your work is now within yourself. Go prepare, get yourself ready, get your home ready, especially if this is a king that's coming to your house. So you want to prepare everything, all the decorations or whatever it is that is necessary to greet this person. And that's the difference. And again, it's perfectly, if you follow along the classes that I've given till now, you see that it fits perfectly with the cosmic clock. Tafshin Nun Aleph, that's exactly when we're hitting Friday afternoon. We're holding at the time when Erev Shabbos, it's time to L'chodai di Likras Kala, Pnei Shabbos to Kabbalah. And it's at that time where the Rebbe says this whole work has been done already. If so, why didn't the Geula come? And if this is the Zman Chiyuv Boyai, the time when Mashiach must come, Zman Chiyuv Boyai, the time that Mashiach must come, then why didn't he come? So here we have to be willing to allow our minds to step out of the box a little bit and to entertain an idea that might sound like a novelty and a chiddush, but shouldn't be such a chiddush. It is a phenomenal chiddush, but it's not. And it's based on a very important Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, Chedushei Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes from Reb Alter, the Getter Rebbe, in his Pirush on Shas. So on Daf Yud Aleph, in the Gemara, he brings over here, it says, B'Gemara b'Tishrei Asidin Ligal. In Tishrei we're going to be redeemed. It's Machlokes if in Nisan and Tishrei, the Gemara brings different opinions. So he brings that the Sefer Turei Oven is Mafalfal, has a whole pilpul. In the Gemara Masechtas Erevin, the halacha is that if you make a neder that you're not going to drink wine on the day that Ben David on the day that Ben David comes, that you're not allowed to ever drink wine because you have to expect Ben David to come any day. If you made a neder that the day Moshiach comes, you're not drinking wine, then you're never allowed to drink wine because you don't know, it could be any day. So the Torah Oven is asking, but hold it. If we're saying that the Gemara says that Moshiach is coming according to one opinion in Tishrei, or according to another opinion in the month of Nisan, then it should only be forbidden to drink wine every Nisan and every Tishrei. Good, we don't know which year. We don't know which year, but we do know that it's either Tishrei, according to one opinion, or Nisan. But in the month of Adar, where we're holding now, Mashiach's not coming, because the Gemara says, Ben Nisan Asidin Ligal. So he goes through the Torah, he brings it, but he says it's not a kasha. There comes the Sfas Emes. He says it's not a kasha. The milsa de pshita, it's a simple thing, the be'emes in truth, Ben David l'chud, u'geula l'chud. We shouldn't confuse two things. There is the redemption, the Geula. We know what the Geula is. The Geula is the moment that all Jews are freed from the exile, powerful godly revelation in the whole world, and we build the third Beis HaMikdash. Or it comes down from heaven. It's a powerful, spectacular moment. That's the Geula. Like it happened by midnight in Mitzrayim. Hashem killed the Hiram Hikakol B'chor. Paro is running in the street saying, Ala Yidin Arois. Fingolos Arois. That's Geula. Bias HaMoshiach, that's when Moshiach Tzidkenu arrives. And the Sfas Emes says it's possible for Mashiach to come at a period of time before the Geula actually happens. Ben David arrives. What does he say? And he proves it. Let's take a look at the first Geula. Moshe Rabbeinu arrived in Mitzrayim way before the Geula happened. Quite on the contrary, how many people were built into the walls after Moshe Rabbeinu came? There were Jews that were beaten and the whole Golus became worse. Shrei Moshe Rabbeinu bala Mitzrayim koydem ha-Geula. U'kamoy ken yachal liyas begeula hasida. It could be in the future redemption. V'chein mevur b'midrashim. And so it says in Midrashim, ma goyel rishon nigla v'nichse. Just like the first Redeemer was revealed and he's concealed, kach goyel achroin, so too will be the future Redeemer. He will be revealed to the Jewish people, and then he will go into concealment. And then he will come back with the Geula. So there's two inyanim. There's Bias HaMashiach, that Mashiach himself came. And that's how he answers the question over there. That the Geula has to happen in Nisan or in Tishrei. But Ben David the Ba, that can be any time. That Mashiach Tzidkenu arrives. So what happens when Mashiach Tzidkenu arrives? So what happens? Do all the Jewish people point and say, here, Mashiach is here, whoa, he's coming into town riding on a donkey, and there's Eliyahu and Avi's running in front of him with the big shofar, and there's a parade that Mashiach is coming? Lav Dafka. So going back to what the Rebbe said. So I want you to know something, and I'm going to make an introduction to what I'm saying right now. The Klippa and the Sitra Achra hates Moshiach, and they're terrified of Moshiach. And they're so insidious, and they're so ugly, and they're so despicable that they have the ability to create within the Jewish people that the very, very most important inyan becomes a taboo subject that everybody's even afraid to open their mouths and say it. That's how dark the Klippa is. So when you start talking about something and then you think, oh, that's like something, you don't say that. You don't say that. That's like crazy. You don't say that. You're a weirdo. You're crazy. How can you say that? Ich bin nicht nespoil from the Klippa and the Sitra Achra. I don't have such a spilus from them right now. I'm not afraid to say. If something is, so let's research it. Is it emes? Is it not emes? So the Rebbe says, let me quote to you from the Rebbe during that time. The Rebbe says like this. Hold on. In Tafshin and Aleph, the Rebbe kept on talking about a Yalkut Shemoni. And that the Yalkut Shemoni says that in the year that Melech HaMoshiach ba, Shana shemelech HaMashiach nigla boy, there's going to be a war between Persia, between Melech Paras and Melech, and the whole world will get tumult and everybody will get scared. And Moshiach Tzidkenu will stand al Gag Beis HaMikdash, v'oimer lehem Yisroel, and he will say to the Jewish people, Higi azman, that don't be afraid. Higi azman gulaschem, the time of your redemption has arrived. And then he says an interesting phrase, and people don't pay attention to it. V'im ein atem maminim, and if you don't believe, Ru'u ba'oiri, look at my light, shezoreach, that's shining in the whole world. So if you listen to my Monday night class, which actually I gave it on Tuesday, in which I reviewed one of the Rebbe's talks called Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, an unbelievable talk, I quoted over there a very interesting statement. The Rebbe says, what does it mean, B'shasha Melech HaMashiach Bo, he's going to stand on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, tell the Jewish people Mashiach is here. He says, hold it. At the time that Melech HaMashiach, if it means that the Beis HaMikdash is standing already in Eretz Yisroel, on the Har HaBayis, you have the third Beis HaMikdash, you don't need Mashiach to tell the Jewish people, my humble ones, Anavim, Megiyas Mangul Aschem, the time of the redemption is arrived. Everybody knows it. The whole world is coming to be Oila Regel. Everybody, it's on CNN, the whole world is talking about it. So the Rebbe says, therefore, it's not referring to Mashiach standing Al Gag Beis HaMikdash. The Rebbe says Al Gag Beis, the reason why it says he's not referring to the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. It's talking about the place where the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi will be revealed, which I discussed in the Tuesday class, that happens in Chutz Li'aretz first. I don't know, physically, spiritually, what exactly that means. And from there, it will move to Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe says that's why it says Gag Beis HaMikdash, Gagim Loi Neskachu. The roofs were not become Kodesh. So it's referring to a place that's not Kodesh B'Kedushas Beis HaMikdash. And Moshiach tells the Jewish people that what? Don't be afraid, Agiyas Mangolas. So what does the Rebbe say over here? This year, Niskayamu, it already been fulfilled. The Divrei Yalkut Shemayni, it's already been fulfilled. Shana Shemelech HaMashiach Niglaboy, Uma'oz, and from already when? From Ubefrat B'chodesh Nisan, Chodesh HaGeula, Oindim Kvar, we're already standing at the time, B'shasha Melech HaMashiach Ba. We're already standing in the time that Melech HaMashiach has arrived. In Parsha Shabbos, Parshas Nasai, Tavshin Nun Aleph, you can look it up. Then in Parshas Vayera, Tavshin Nun Beis, Yeshnoi Loi Rak HaMetzias de Mashiach. We don't only have the existence of Mashiach, Elegam HaHizgalus of Mashiach. We don't even have the existence of Mashiach. We have Mashiach revealed already. V'achshav, and now, tzrichim rak lekabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu b'poil mamish, we need to go receive him. So the Rebbe is saying clearly that Mashiach is already b'hizgalus. He's already revealed in the world. And then in Parshas Toldos, Tavshin Nun Beis, he says the main chiddush of Bias HaMashiach is the hizgalus of his existence. The fact that we can identify a person and say that he is Moshiach. That's the main chiddush. And after that, everything else that he does, bon kititzav his asvus mizgalus mitziyasei. All the other effects that he does in the world is all derivative from the main thing that Moshiach himself is revealed. And then in Parshas Mishpatim, Tavshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe goes ahead and says, we see already the beginning of Moshiach's pe'ulos on the world. From all these sichos, it seems to imply very clearly that we have to differentiate between the Geula itself and the actual Bias HaMoshiach. Moshiach Tzidkenu, according to what the Rebbe is saying, came already. And it was revealed to the Jewish people. The Geula didn't happen. The Rebbe actually asks the question in a few sichos. If everything is done, why did the Geula not happen? So the Rebbe answers. And this is a Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim Tavshin Nun Beis. At the very same sicha where he's pointing how Mashiach is already doing his impact in the world, getting nations together that they should limit their nuclear weapons, and that they should, and it's happening in New York because that's where the Nasi Hadar lives, who is the Mashiach of the generation. I mean, he keeps on saying, and let's not kid ourselves, the Rebbe is referring to himself in all those sichas. You see it clearly. He's saying it again and again and again. But when he says that, he says, so how can it be that we're still in Golus? And you know what? He doesn't give an answer. Moshiach tzidkenu misakef me'eze siba bilti yadua umuvenes klal. Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach. And many times. Because again, once already, and the Rebbe then makes mention that it's not understood at all how come Mashiach has not yet gotten the koyach to actually go and build the third Beis HaMikdash. Loi mevenes klal. Doesn't mean that he's not giving us avoda. We'll talk about the avoda next class. But he is definitely saying that Bias HaMashiach happened already. Geula didn't take place. So you say, wow, this is like crazy stuff. So how come no one talks about it? How come no one talks about it? Because we're afraid, because then you're going to sound like a lunatic. The problem is like this. The Rebbe follows the Rambam in Bias HaMashiach. So always the Rambam. The Rambam, by the way, gives you because really once you start getting into midrashic elements, you talk about Gog and Magog, and then which seems to be massive destruction. Then you're expecting Eliyahu Hanavi to come fly down with the thing and tell the Jewish people, like walk into Lakewood Shul and knock on the bima. In 3 days, Moshiach. That's how we all fantasize Moshiach when I was a kid. Eliyahu Hanavi's going to come. He's going to let us all know. We're going to get excited. Everybody's going to jump. Hey, we're going to do it within the next 3 days. Everybody's going to learn Torah and do mitzvahs because in 3 days Moshiach is coming. That's the way we all imagine Moshiach. Rambam doesn't say that. Rambam doesn't talk about. Rambam says Yesh min hanavim. We shouldn't get into that. Rambam gives you halacha. What's halacha? Yamod melech. A king is going to rise. He's going to have a big following. That's what makes him a king. And he has the characteristics of a melech. And what is he going to do? He's going to inspire Yidden. He's going to inspire Yidden for observance. He's going to inspire Jews to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. He's going to fight the battles of the Jewish people and win. And if he's successful and he builds the Beis HaMikdash, then we know for sure he's Moshiach. The Rambam says, however, if he dies, wrong. Rambam says if he was killed, he's not Moshiach. So people, therefore, even within Chabad, everybody regressed a lot of people regressed from the notion that the Rebbe could be Moshiach Tzidkenu, from the notion that Gimel Tammuz happened and the Rebbe seemed to have passed away, and therefore can't be that he's Moshiach because he died. But that would be very, very, very dishonest, because if you look in Rambam, the Rambam never says that if Mashiach dies, he's not Moshiach. Rambam says if he's killed. If he's killed. Now what's the idea of being killed? If Mashiach is the return of Malchus Beis David and he fights to restore the Davidic kingdom, if his enemies overpowered him and they killed him, they defeated him. So then we know it's not him because he was defeated by the other side. And it makes it so clear from Rambam, because there is no other reason why the Rambam had to write the word if he was killed. If the Rambam would have believed that someone who passed away can't be Moshiach, that the process of Moshiach cannot involve a Moshiach revealing himself and then disappearing from the community through, not hiding in some cave, but through passing. If that would have been a thing, Rambam could have the easiest way said, if he died includes being killed. But Rambam doesn't say that. He's so meticulous with his words, and he says, Dafka, if Moshiach is killed. So it makes sense that the reason why the Rambam did not write if Moshiach died, but if Moshiach was killed, is because it's not mukhrach that just because someone passed away. So we don't know. Rambam says we don't know how the Talech HaGeula will come about. But the most important thing of today's class, I got a little carried away and I didn't get to. The most important thing in today's share is that our generation was zoiche to something that no other generation ever merited regarding Bias HaMashiach. What did our generation merit? Okay. It might be a little hard for people to accept this idea that Mashiach was already revealed, but even if we don't go there, even if we're not going to go there yet, the Rebbe did say in a talk in the summer of 1991, in the month of El, Shabbos Parsha Shoftim, the Rebbe said that before Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be a return of Nevuah, of prophecy. And I discussed it in 2 classes ago. We discussed the return of prophecy. And I brought to you from Rambam, in Ageres Teiman, the Rambam says, Ein Safik, and I mentioned it also in my Monday class this last week, Ein Safik shechazaras hanevuah hu hakdamas haMoshiach. That prophecy will return to the Jewish people. Ein Safik. There is no doubt. So the Rebbe builds over there a case that before Mashiach comes, there will for sure return prophecy. And then the Rebbe goes in ahead and he says that the Baal Shem Tov was a prophet and so on and so forth. And he says, therefore, Nasi Dareinu, the Nasi of the generation, referring to himself, is a prophet. And it's our job to announce that to all the people in the world, that everybody should know that the Eibishter was Memana, an Adam, a person, a Baal Bechira, who should be the advisor of the generation, and he's the Navi of the generation. And that everybody should listen to him. That's what he said. And he says that, and including in his prophecy, Ada Nevuah ha'ikris, to the ultimate Nevuah, la'alter l'giyula. Not la'alter l'tshuva, la'alter l'giyula. That momentarily the Geula is coming. In that very talk, the Rebbe himself writes, on the bottom, in the notes, the Rebbe says that he's saying it b'tor navi, not b'tor chacham. Not just b'tor chacham. Not b'tor tzaddik. A tzaddik has deep knowledge. He's saying it in a manner of a navi. That what? That the Zaman HaGeula has arrived. No generation in the history of the world, this has never been said by any other tzaddik. We never had a nevuah regarding the Geula. The Rebbe gives us a nevuah. But the Rebbe tells us to look. He says, ayin, look in order to appreciate the difference between nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh or something like that. He says, look in the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. So I want to quote you from the Alter Rebbe, from the Baal Tanya's Maimer. He says, Chacham, this is a Mamore Admir Azakim HaKtsarim. He says, Chacham Amiti, a true Chacham, b'chachmas ha'emes, with Chachmas of truth, Yachol lahasik b'chachmi Allah ba'olam esalyonim. He's able to apprehend in olam esalyonim certain truths. Ache yasik b'chachmi Allah asidas. Till he can see, by plugging into the high wisdom of God, he can see future. But when it comes down in the world, it's able to change. Because he sees it in supernal chachma. It's true that up there it is so. It has to descend in all worlds till it comes down into our world hashafel. It's possible that even though a chacham amiti, a true tzaddik and wise man, sees something in the spiritual realms, it's possible that on the way down, as it materializes to this world, something gets stuck and it doesn't happen. And it doesn't contradict the truth. The truth is the truth. Now, to support this, that the Alter Rebbe is saying that what the person said is true, but it didn't materialize in this world, even though the Alter Rebbe doesn't need support. But for those who like to see other sources, the Bnei Yissaschar in Chodesh Sivan, the Bnei Yissaschar says, what's with all the dates that the tzaddikim spoke about, and Moshiach didn't come? So he says, time is something that is constantly created by God. So he says, what happens to time? Time comes down and it manifests, and then that very chunk of time rises back up to a place beyond time. Time is it's something that's discussed in Chassidus in different places. That year, when the year is over, it's like a folder, the year, and it's a zip, it's like a draw, like a file, and the year goes back up. So a new year from beyond time comes into time. He says, he says, hear these words. The years that the Chachamim spoke in their Ruach HaKodesh, that they saw Moshiach is coming, those years never materialized. The year never came down. So even though technically we were passing through that year, we weren't tapping into that year. Because that year, Ad Asher Yavai Azman, then Hine Yomim Boim, those years will come down. The year Taf Ches that the Zohar spoke about will come down. The year Taf Reish Samach Vav, which was a year of Kate, will come down. These years didn't come down yet. For whatever reason, they're remaining in a place beyond time. The Yisroel ain't coil. We will see then that every word of the Nevi'im and the Chachamim are true. V'haven ma'oid hadavar. Understand this really well. Interesting idea. Same concept, similar to the Alter Rebbe. He brings over here, similar from the Holy Ruzhiner. The Ruzhiner says that the reason why only Daniel had the Nevuah when Moshiach is coming exactly, he says because every tzaddik saw Geula in the Lefiva Olam that they're able to tap into. So there are people who saw the Geula in Atzilus, and when the oil of the Geula arrived in Atzilus, they had Moshiach. The are tzaddikim who saw the Geula in Olam Abriya, and when the light of Moshiach arrived to Olam Abriya, they said Moshiach. He says, but the only person, Daniel, his name is Kael Adna, if you take, which is the shame, the name of God that dominates Olam Asiyah. So you have to, the only one you take completely serious regarding when the Geula is Daniel, because he has the information for Olam Asiyah, for the physical world. Anyways, and so on. There's a lot of sources for this concept and this idea. The Rebbe, however, says, going back to here, Mash enkim pchenas navi, a navi is bringing God's words down into speech. Nivs vasayim. That means the main reason why a navi is called navi is not because of knowledge. The main navi why a navi is called navi is because Hashem delivered something into his mouth. And when he delivered into his mouth, it actually entered into the world of speech, which is our physical world. Now, to prove that idea, the Ran says, Rabbeinu Nissim, the Ran says, you know what, that a Navi has no Bechira, because the Eibishter actually puts the actual words in his mouth. It's not like he perceives something and then he creates his own words for the message. That's a chacham. A Navi, the Eibishter actually translates the actual words. It goes into his five organs of speech, and it comes out words that God is speaking. So that means that Hashem brought it already down in Olam Asiyah. Once things come down in Olam Asiyah, they can't change anymore because they've already arrived over here. In that talk, Shabbos Parsha Shoftim, the Rebbe says that what he's saying is a nevuah. He brings the Alter Rebbe about the difference, and he says, I'm saying it not as a chacham, I'm saying it as a navi, and the Rebbe adds these words. Because of that noyhagin, it's the minhag lately to be mevata everything in speech. You hear these words? The Rebbe says it became the minhag to say all these, I should say, crazy things in speech. Why? Because we're bringing it into action. And therefore the Rebbe says when people are wondering, and that's Sicha, look it up. When people are wondering, how can Moshiach come? It's like, how's that going to happen? The Rebbe says they shouldn't wonder. It happened already. Kol inyonei hagiula kvar nimshachu ba'olam. They were already nimshach in the world. They're drawn into the world. What state are we in right now, according to what the Rebbe is saying? The Geula is here already. Moshiach is revealed. The Geula is here. What's only thing that's necessary now is to that Geula to manifest kamli de giloi, for it to come to a state of revelation. It's so miserably painful that it's 27 years and it hasn't happened yet to our eyes. But the first thing we have to remove, the first thing we have to completely fight, tooth and nail, is this concept that we're all afraid to address this, to talk about it. It's almost like whoever does say it is to be completely in the defensive. The opposite. Imagine this emes. We have the Geula in the world. Moshiach Tzidkenu is revealed already. And people say, oh. I would say the opposite. How dare you? Would you like to show your face when Moshiach comes and say, oh yeah, I kind of shushed everybody? The opposite. Let's talk. It's not popular. We'll make it popular. It'll be popular for the whole entire world to know. Who's it going to start with? a little bit in this class, a little bit in some other classes around. Why now? We should have done it 27 years ago. We didn't do it then. Let's do it now. These are truths. This is absolute emes. We need to talk. We need to talk. The Klippa created such a situation that we're afraid to talk, and that everybody's and more than that, because of the fear, people stopped learning. People stopped learning. We stopped learning what was said in Nun Aleph, what was said in Nun Beis. And again, I want to really conclude with just one line. One line. I have to conclude. Wait till this last line. I'm not talking about a Moshiach that's in some Muju cave with some interesting Kabbalah center followers who followed behind him and did. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a tzaddik who comes after 7 generations. I'm talking about the army that fought communism, that made the greatest battle of Mesiras Nefesh, the most heroic Jews. I'm talking about the people who came to us with the deepest Pnimius HaTorah revelation. Prove it. Learn Chassidus. You have an unbelievable revelation, infinitely even higher than Kabbalah. I'm talking about a Lubavitcher Rebbe who came and reached the entire world and spread Yiddishkeit and Torah and revealed Pnimius HaTorah like no one else. I'm not talking about some guru in some place and we're talking about whatever. You have a problem, and I'm agreeing to the problem. The problem is that Gimel Tammuz, and to our eyes, he died. That's a big problem. I'm not going to argue that it's not a problem. Well, that's a nisayon for us. And up till now, we failed. And it's not a joke. And we have to stop failing. We have all that it needs to rely on to be able to go out and speak publicly and loudly this emes. The tzaddik doesn't lie. The navi doesn't lie. And if we were given a nevuah and told to spread it, then this is the way it is. And look at the history of the Jewish people. Nevuahs didn't always happen the next day. When the Noach said that a Mabul is coming, it took 120 years. And it does say everywhere, Ashrei HaMachakeh. And it does say that Moshiach will first be revealed to his tribe, and not that all the Jewish people will accept him. And it does say that he will be revealed and he will be hidden. All these things are stated. And we're holding Shabbos Chatzos. We're holding after Chatzos. I mean, everything lines up. The entire zodiac, if you can say. Everything lines up perfectly. The one thing that doesn't line up is that the Rebbe's people cut and ran and hid because they became uncomfortable with this message, not knowing what to do. Die-hard Lubavitch ran and hid. They're terrified. It's a nisayon. I can't blame anybody. I too am hiding. But enough. Time to be proud, time to talk, time to learn, time to know. And as soon as we do a little bit, I have no doubt there'll be a complete and full Hisgalus. Our main avodah is to learn, to be knowledgeable, not stam to talk from the hip. If you learn and you know the subject and you know it well, then we can talk and we can. But it's amazing that idea that we have a nevuah today. And once there is a words of a navi, these things are loy chayzer ekam. The Eibush to help us that we should be merit to see the complete. Next week we'll talk a little more about what possibly needs to be done. So what do we do with all this information? Okay, everyone. L'chaim.